I'm going to tell you all the basic information you need to decide if socialism is what you want. For the first time in American history in a very long time, there's actually a candidate running for president who is a self-proclaimed socialist. And by the way, when Barack Obama was in the Senate, he was the only one among all senators whose voting record was even more socialist than Bernie Sanders, who is the admitted socialist. You'll have to decide if you think Obama's a socialist too. But one thing that makes it easier to do that is the fact that in his autobiographies he said who his own mentors are. The only two he picked, the Reverend Wright, you can decide what you think of his politics, and the other was a man named Frank Marshall Davis, who until his dying day was a genuine card-carrying communist. There aren't any conservatives, nobody else who Obama said was his mentor. Those are the two. Anyway, I'm going to tell you the basic features of socialism. And the first thing you have to ask yourself, are you angry? Because if you're not angry, you'll never become a socialist. Anger is what socialist politicians depend on to make you angry at your neighbors and want to go after what they've got. Because the most basic feature of socialism, and these are the words of Karl Marx, who in 1848 wrote the Communist Manifesto, and throughout the 19th century until he died in the 1870s was the most ardent propagandist for it. This is what he said. These are his words. You reproach us, meaning him and the other communists, with intending to do away with your property. Precisely so. That is just what we intend. And this is the most basic feature of socialism. Nobody has property rights in socialism. The politicians get to decide who gets what, but nobody has property rights. This tells you how successful it's likely to be, and you can tell that simply by watching any infant. One of the first words any infant comes up with is mine. Right after mommy and daddy, and nobody even has to teach the infant. It's hardwired into us to want property. And as history has shown, anyone who does not have property, that's what a slave is. That's what a serf is, someone who's not allowed to have property. So in a socialist country, everyone is either a slave, a serf, or the people who get to be the whipmasters, the slave drivers. Now, it happens that socialists have a motto which contains what they promise. And they all agree with this. There is not a socialist who admits he's a socialist who will tell you that this isn't exactly the heaven they're looking for. And there it is. These are words that Karl Marx agreed to. I don't know of a single socialist in history who's ever said this isn't exactly the nirvana they're promising. And you can see what it says. From each according to his ability, to each according to his needs. And what's very interesting about this is it's an incomplete sentence. It doesn't tell you how or who is doing this, who's achieving these results, or even what they really consist of. The subject is not there. The predicate is not there. We don't know who's doing it, except we do, because the subject is the state. Because the state's the only one that has the power to pull this off. And when we talk about the state doing something, what we really mean is the politicians and the bureaucrats who are in charge of the levers of power in the state. They get to do this. And what is it that they're going to do? Well, somehow, magically, stuff ends up from each according to his ability. And what it is the verb involved there is take. What's left out is the state takes from each according to his ability. And what is it that they're taking? Property. There's nothing else to take. They're taking whatever property they think is what in their judgment, the people who they're taking it from have the ability to have it taken away from. And of course, that's their judgment. You think the people whose property is being taken away from get to vote on that? Guess again. And then what happens to the property? Well, then it gets to go to each according to his needs. And again, in that case, it's the politicians and the bureaucrats give it to whoever they want to give it to. And they give it to their friends. And if you think they're going to give it to you, guess again, unless you're one of their friends. And even then, you never know, because in this is what we're taught. This is what is known as lawlessness. This is when the law of the jungle prevails, and the only people who have the ability to decide who gets what are the people who can force people to give up what they have and give it to others. And this tells you everything you need to know about